Ladies and gentlemen, Duckville here. Welcome to a StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm replay cast that I'm going to be bringing to you today. It is going to be another Zerg vs Terran here. We did see the previous matchup that I posted up on the YouTubes was also a ZVT. This one is going to be a little bit different. Also, a pretty interesting game on Neoplanet S. We're going to have a look at this matchup right now. Up on the top right-hand side, as our Red Zerg player is currently playing for Seraphic Nexus, which is a C-based team. It is PulsE. And his opponent down on the bottom left-hand side, a player who we have seen quite a bit here on this channel. I've also done a little bit of streaming from time to time during some of the various Masters Cups in the C region that I get to stream every now and then. It is RuineD from AVANT, or as the very Australian way to pronounce it, AVANT. It's like the funniest thing. I was watching some of the videos on the AV channel and on the AV YouTube channel, and it's just so funny how they pronounce it sometimes. But anyway, let's talk about some StarCraft here. Of course, it has been a very slow week. In fact, the last 2 weeks I have been very slow with putting up replays and VODs and stuff like that. I do apologize. Of course, as many people will know, I am a big fan of the Dota 2, and I have been well. TI3 is on. It's been a very fun event, and I've been very, very happy with how it has been going, and it's been an absolute joy to watch some great high-level Dota 2, and, you know, I'm going to still try and get some StarCraft 2 stuff up and running, but it will be a little bit slow for this week. This week, of course, being from Monday, the 5th of August, along until pretty much for about a week or so, until roughly about the 12th or the 13th or something like that. Things will be just a little bit slow. I'll probably try and get up 1, maybe 2 games per couple of days or something like that. Basically, expect like 1 VOD a day or so, or roughly something like that. So it has been a little bit slow. I have done a little bit of streaming though, every now and then. A little bit of Dota 2, a little bit of StarCraft 2 when I can. So. You know, I'm not dead or anything like that. It's just been very slow and very busy with Dota 2. So these guys having a little bit of back and forth here. Just we did see that RuineD was able to pick off a drone that had scouted across the map before it was able to actually get any damage done. RuineD is going to be going for a 1-Rax expand here. We can see that he did get a gas very early here, just throwing the 1 SCV in here. So it's not going to be your standard sort of Reaper-based play, but what we will see is a factory going down in due time. Of course, the reactor also comes out as well. Now, the thing is, he actually removed a couple of the workers there, I believe. So we can see 1 SCV in here, but he did remove a couple, so that he did have enough gas to start up the reactor and the factory. Now, for those of you who have seen some of the RuineD games that I've done casts of, or perhaps if you've seen him streaming live over on his channel, I believe it's at twitch.tv/RuineDC, you'll know that he's a bit of a fan of mech play, and it has been something which has been, you know, back and forth, especially in Heart of the Swarm. It's been a little bit harder for Terrans to utilize mech in this particular matchup, especially because of how strong Blinding Cloud on Vipers and, of course, the Swarm host can be. But, you know, I would not be surprised to see RuineD give the old mech a little bit of a waggle here. So we'll find out if he's going to go in that particular path. We can see the barracks just coming along. Going to scout the high ground here to allow that Marine to kill off that Overlord. That last little bit of health, is it going to survive? I don't think so. 12 health, 6. It's 1, and oh, it does actually survive for the moment, and in fact the Marine is not even able to get away. A few Lings have made their way across the map. PulsE gets a little bit of damage done, but of course he will be able to scout out that the command center is on the way, and of course that there are a few Hellions out. So just normal sorts of play from both of these guys here. We'll see PulsE continue to get out some drones. It looks as if he will be getting out a couple of Queens as well. He's going to spend the next little round of his larvae on getting a few more drones out. So we'll have to see if he's going to be okay to defend against the Hellions that'll be coming across the map. Of course, most players, if they don't go for like a couple of early roaches to deflect any Hellions that come across the map, then you'll see them pick up a couple of Queens. Some people will go for like a large sort of injection of Lings at around about the 7-minute mark. As we can see, the Hellions are now going to make their way across the map. They should reach this kind of point point by around about the sort of the 640 mark on the timer there, so that's why you do see a lot of players will grab their Lings at around about this sort of 6:30 to 7-minute mark, and that helps with defending these Hellions. But for the time being, it looks like PulsE is just going to be utilizing a couple of Queens to try and hold back the Hellions, of course, with his creep spread already starting to push out to this part here. That does allow his Queens quite a lot of mobility to move back and forth between this area to try and keep those Hellions away, to make sure that they cannot get too far inside the Zerg base. So back at home, we do see that RuineD is getting a Banshee started up. We've got a couple of Widowmines coming out to help defend. Of course, Widowmine's a very staple kind of unit to bring out at this kind of point of a TvZ. A lot of Zerg players loving to get out a sort of a, you know, the Baneling Roach-based timings are coming out every second game that you look at, whether it be on ladder or whether it be in the high-level scene. Of course, we did see, if you guys are watching WCS America round of 16 today, I'm going to spoil it because I'm assuming that most people won't see this until way after the matches have been broadcast. But if you didn't see it, close your ears for now. But there was a couple of fantastic games from one Lee Jae Dong, who was able to take out Ryung very quickly with a couple of Roach Baneling busts, and that was very nicely done by him. So, you know, this kind of play, it's been coming about because a lot of Terran players love to pick up a very fast third command center. You'll often see players will throw it down over here, start up their third command, switch it over to an orbital, boost up that SCV count, and get a really, really high level economy up and running. And, you know, if you can get to that point as a Terran player and, you know, you throw down your command center over on this side, you make sure that this little edge is protected by a small wall or something like that, then you can put yourself in a really good position. Now, that's for playing with standard bioplay. Now, we did mention that RuineD is a bit of a fan of mech, and I think we are going to go in that direction here today. We do have a Viking that has come out to help out with the reduction of any Zerg air presence. We can see that the Banshee has already made its way across the map, and with a small force of units here, he has forced out a lot of Lings here, and I'm interested to see what PulsE is going to do, because that is actually a huge amount of Lings to have at this point here. He's currently got, what is that, like 46 Lings out of the map right now. Pretty damn big total here, so he wants to make sure that he is fully protected against those Hellions if they decide to roam their way across the map. Of course, very old school style here with the Hellion Banshee is to utilize the Banshee to try and pick off any drones in mineral line or anything like that. We can then, of course, use the Hellions to try and roast away any of the Lings or the drones on the ground, and of course they can help out with dealing with Queens as well. So RuineD is still just continuing to play a pretty standard sort of opening right now, and we do see that a couple more factories are about to go down. Just discussions about the madness levels going on right now. So both of these players still having a little bit of back and forth. But as we can see, PulsE is only just getting his third base up and running right now. The third hatchery just coming into effect as we speak. Quite a lot of Lings on their way across the map, as we mentioned before, and in fact a lot more now making their way across. There is a Baneling nest down at the back. The 1-1 upgrades are done for these Lings, and a lot of Banes are now going to be morphing in. We can see there is a total of 28 Banelings that are now morphing in for our Zerg player. RuineD at the moment, I don't believe he has any idea that this is on the way, but there is certainly going to be a lot of Banelings knocking on the front door. We'll see if RuineD is able to protect this, because it is going to be a very, very tough push to stop. He does have a couple of tanks down at the back. Of course, the Thor is also here to help out as well. Those guys very, very beefy when it comes to tanking up all the damage here. And now the Banelings will just roll forward. They don't even have their rolling right now, but they move forwards. The tanks, however, have gotten some wonderful shots off right now, and the Lings will now stream their way inside the natural base of RuineD. It looks as if we can see that there will be quite a lot of Lings just ringing their way around inside that natural, just forming a noose around the tank, and then of course the Thor as well, taking out both of those units. And pretty much that's like all that RuineD has right now, so he's forced to back off for the moment. The few Lings that are alive are going to have to deal with a lot of these SCVs. Of course, as everyone knows, SCVs are pretty tanky units, and Hellbats pop out and clean all of this up. And that's going to be the end of that attack for now. So we'll take a look at the workers killed, 10 in total for PulsE. So he's done an okay job, but then we look back at the worker count for him. He's basically, well, for a second there, he was quite even with our Terran player RuineD. So PulsE has got some damage done. He's held his opponent up, but you know, I sort of question whether that was actually worth it in the end, because, I mean, we killed off a couple of units, we set the Terran back maybe sort of 10-ish units at this point, but, I mean, it's not going to be too much of a concern. A third command center is already out here for RuineD. We now have a total of 4 factories up and running. Some upgrades still not coming about just yet for our Terran player. In fact, sorry, we do have +1 to vehicle weapons, and, of course, the magical blue flame is up and running, so those Hellbats are going to be doing an excellent job against any further Ling presence on the ground. We can now see back at home for PulsE. 2-2 on his melee and carapace upgrades is now just about to finish up. We can see that Roach speed is also on the way. We're going to have a very powerful ground army here from PulsE, but, you know, the question is it going to be able to bust through a large mechanical army here of RuineD? Now, for those of you who don't get to see mech too often, the thing about mech is it is extremely efficient when it comes to dealing with Zerg units. Once you have a good position, once you have a good sort of, you know, lineup of units all around, then the mech can just destroy Zerg incredibly hard. And through the end of Wings of Liberty, we got to see mech play utilized quite a lot. And RuineD, unfortunately, with his front door left slightly open here, a tank is just going to sit at the front door. The bouncer, as it were, is going to try and stop the Lings, but they do make their way inside. They will get a little bit of damage done here. I don't think there's going to be too much. Forces the SCVs to jump off the mineral line for a moment here. Hellion's going to come back through, but they will be able to roast up the rest of these Lings here. Despite the 2-2 upgrades, Hellions are still pretty damn good when they have blue flames. So that's, you know, a nice little bit of harassment here. We can see that RuineD is only just now getting his third base up and running, so he's a little bit behind in that regard. But as we were saying, mech is a very powerful mixture of units. They're very strong and very efficient, much like playing as a Protoss. You have very strong and very powerful units, but they can cost a lot. They are very immobile as well. We can see these tanks and these stores, extremely slow units. And, you know, the thing about mech is you need to be set up correctly, you need to be aware of any transitions that your opponent is going into, and you need to make the correct adaptations yourself. So we can see now that RuineD has spent a lot of his minerals on these Hellbats here. What I would really like to see is a couple of medevacs coming out to perhaps try and come across the map and put some harassment on the Zerg player, because as we can see, PulsE has been able to continue on with his upgrades right now. We've got him sitting at 2-2 on the Lings on the ground. The Roaches also have 2-0. They're about to get 2-1 very soon. And these guys are going to be very strong. They're very handy to have up against a mech army. They do really well against things like the Hellbats when they're in sort of, you know, manageable numbers, such as, you know, sort of like a 8 to sort of 10 number like that. But once you start coming up against these tanks, when the tanks have got their +1 on their upgrades, they do 55 damage against armor targets. And unfortunately for Roaches, they have a lot of armor. So the tanks are able to splash all over that. So what we want to see here from PulsE, apart from a big drone up, which he has just done, 25 drones have just popped down for the Seraphic Nexus Zerg player. He's going to switch over, get some Ultralisks happening perhaps, but what I would really like to see is, you know, a couple of extra upgrades coming out here for the Infestation Pit. We want to see the Enduring Locust, we want to see some Swarm Hosts starting to come out very soon, the Swarm Host, and of course Vipers starting to come out very soon from the Zerg player very soon. But RuineD, as we said, trying to get some harassment done, comes down towards the bottom right-hand side base. Those 25 drones that came across are unfortunately going to get roasted up extremely quickly here. He's going to try and get a couple more hits if he can. Maybe jump into that medevac and boost across. In fact, that's exactly what he does. Nicely done by RuineD. Going to drop them right on top of those drones here. And do they get a big roast up? No, they don't. So the worker count is still at a pretty decent advantage for our Zerg player right now. 82 drones around for PulsE at this stage, up against the 57 SCVs of RuineD. So we'll see what RuineD is able to do here. Some other Hellbats now drop inside the main base, roasting up a couple of those larvae down on the ground, also getting some work done on that Queen, but the other medevac is not able to get too much damage done while these distractions are going on. And one thing that I am really happy about from PulsE is his creep spread. It's magnificent. He's come all the way across through the southern side of the map. He's also pushing down the top edge as well, and you know, he's slowly making his way up through the top. So things are looking pretty good for our Zerg player right now, but he just needs to make sure we continue on, power out those upgrades. But this kind of mixture, the Roach mixture, is not always the best way to proceed up against mech unless you have some of those Vipers out for that very useful Blinding Cloud. So we'll see what RuineD is going to do here, he's starting to max out himself. He's up at 196 supply. We've got those 1-1 upgrades now up and running as well. Some Hellbats going to move forward. Want to see if they can find some of the roaches, maybe snipe off a couple of them. Does grab a few. The roach count does deplete a little bit there. Double Spire back at home for our Zerg player is going to help out with getting out those extra helpful units. The units up in the sky. Broodlords, Corruptors can also help in a way. And, you know, this can be a very, very pivotal point for this matchup, is how these guys are going to maneuver into this sort of mid-late game here, where they need to make a choice. Am I going to make a slow sort of methodical push out, which is what you do see from a lot of Mech Terran players, or is RuineD going to sit back for now? We can see that he is going to continue on that harassment, which I think is a really key part of playing as a Mech Terran player. But you know, and then we have our Zerg player. How is PulsE going to handle this? Is he going to you know, slowly start to switch into the Vipers and things like Ultras and those kinds of units? Because the Vipers and Ultras mixed together are extremely strong. You can throw down a blinding cloud just like on top of a large group of these tanks like this, you know, put a couple around here, and when the Ultras run through, it can do a ridiculous amount of damage and can put the heart of a Terran mech players, you know, in a little bit of a tough spot. So we'll see what is going to happen here from PulsE. It looks as if he is going to get those Vipers out. We did see quite a few coming out. They're going to throw down a, you know, a little bit of a consume going down on some of these buildings. You know, I'm not sure how I feel about not having some of the, perhaps some of the, either whether they be extra hatcheries or whether they be the buffet buildings, which we like to call evolution chambers, just randomly out on the map. A lot of players will sort of throw them down in these sorts of areas here, just so that they're in a nice position to be able to take advantage of the control over the map you have. But so far, PulsE has not gone for anything like that. But what he does have is a lot of roaches maneuvering their way through the top side. They're going to pick off a couple of command centers that were in construction. The Thors, the tanks, all trying to siege up here to get a good position on PulsE. But the roaches, nicely microed, will pull back for the moment. Only losing a few of them right now, but PulsE is not done yet. He's going to try and come through. The tank's incredibly powerful right now. They're +2 on their upgrades. These guys are doing 60 damage to armored targets, doing a wonderful job sweeping through all of those roaches, and that is going to be it. So PulsE has just said, alright, you know what, you can have those roaches. I've got a lot of enough gas back at home, and I have been able to build up 8 Ultralists. We've got a lot of Vipers out. It's going to be a total of 11 Ultralists in production right now, and in fact, we already have a few already out on the map. So it's going to be a total of 16. That's right, folks, 16 Ultras out on the map. They have 5-3 on their upgrades. This Banshee up at the top left-hand side has been hammering away at this hatchery that's been in construction for quite a long time. It looks as if the Banshee just doesn't have enough DPS to keep up with this, but I think that once this hatches, this is probably going to go down quick smart. And in fact, yes, it does. There you go, folks. The more you know. If a Banshee is wailing away on a hatchery, it's not going to kill it, but it will kill it shortly after it fully morphs in. So things have been at a really interesting point here, because PulsE, I'm incredibly surprised that he has not taken this base here. This is a very pivotal base, because I mean it's one of the far back bases. It's quite far away from the Terran player, and it means that, you know, if PulsE can take that, then he can really boost up his gas count. But wow, look at this. We've got all of those Ultras now making their way down. Banelings do not have their speed. However, we do have wow, that is like a jam-filled donut with, you know, all that lovely Baneling jam in the middle. Going to be trying to roll through some blinding clouds. Do we get to see any? No, the Ultras still just guarding those Banelings. We need the bodyguard playing in the background right now, because that is exactly what's going on. The Banshee, however, has continued to harass this base completely, which is just, you know, this has really negated a lot of the gas income for our Zerg player. Now, it's not a big concern right now for PulsE, but as the game slowly moves on, and of course, as we mentioned before, mech is very efficient, so things like these tanks, these Thors, are going to trade very well with large compositions of Ultras, providing they get to get their shots down on them. And, you know, that means that PulsE is going to need to resupply very quickly. Now, his gas count is currently sitting at 700, because we have been getting a lot of upgrades out. Centrifugal hooks are on the way, +1 to carapace, +2 to attacks for those fly units. Pneumatized carapace for the Overlords are also on the way, and it looks as if he's going to slowly start to make his way forward. PulsE has completely caught his opponent off guard right now. Despite no blinding clouds, RuineD has been, well, absolutely ruined right here. His tanks have gone all the way of the Dodo right now, falling down. Battle Cruisers up in the sky have been able to get off a couple of Yamato cannons, but the Ultras will continue to charge forward. And PulsE is very happy with this situation, it seems. It looks as if there is very, very little defense now for Ruin. He's put in a very tough spot, down to 135 supply, but he does have his mech army, lots of battle cruisers up in the sky, well, two, call that lots, a couple more now starting to make their way out. We can see that a couple more upgrades are still coming through. RuineD is going to slowly start to get some more of these units out, but the thing about mech, as we mentioned before, it's extremely slow to produce as well, which is a very pivotal part of playing as a mech player. So battle cruisers now starting to come out to help out with the defense of this main base here. It looks as if they may actually be able to burn down these ultras before too much damage is done, but you know, the remax, that's one thing which we were talking about a little bit earlier. Corruptors, 22 of them are now popping out for PulsE, so he's going to have a lot of Corruptors, a lot of air power there as he looks to possibly finish off his opponent. But the thing about Corruptors is they're not going to kill the buildings unless RuineD is silly enough to lift up all of his buildings. He's not going to be able to kill him that way. And RuineD just says, you know what, you can have all of that. I'm going to continue to head up towards the Sky Terran Tech, and he's going to produce a few more starports here. But the factories, the main point here is the factory's still alive, the armories at the back, the fusion core as well, and a couple more units are going to still continue to come out. But our Zerg player, in true Zerg fashion, is going to remax now on a lot of Lings. And Lings, I mean, they're pretty good when you get them out there on mass, and we can see that there certainly is a large mass of them right now. 84 Lings are out on the map for PulsE right now, but is RuineD going to be able to defend against this? Because the planetary fortresses are not up and running at this base just as of yet. It looks like PulsE sees that, and he's going to try and take advantage of that as best as he knows how. Sending in the Lings, forming a noose around that command center, going to try and kill it off before it can switch in. The command center is forced to lift off. The battle cruisers, the Ravens as well, and the Vikings all coming along to try and help defend this fourth base of RuineD. It looks like the two command centers, however, have been destroyed, and it looks as if, for the moment, RuineD is going to be stuck a little bit for his income right now. We can see that his work account is currently sitting at 32. Not too bad at all, but I mean, you're basically mining off, you know, kind of, you know, when you put it all together, it's maybe 1.5 bases right now, so he's going to have to sort of stand around for the moment just while he gets everything worked back together. As you can see, we do have a nice setup through the middle section of the map here, so this particular portion is not going to be an easy picking right now for PulsE, especially considering the majority of his army right now consists of Lings and Corruptors. They're not going to do too well against a few turrets, against some Hellbats, and of course a couple of tanks. So it looks as if PulsE is going to try and bash his head against the wall over here. The supply depot's ready to defend that position right now. A couple of tanks also helping out. And PulsE, I mean, he's getting things back in order. We've started to take this top base here at the 12 o'clock position. We can see that the bottom right-hand side also mining away quite nicely. However, his drone count is still at 54. It's not as if we have gone to the magical number of around about sort of 75 to 85, depending on how you play. RuineD is still protecting this fourth base up towards the top left-hand side for now. And as we can see, with the battlecruiser count now raised up a little, we've currently got 4 battlecruisers that are out at the moment. A couple of point defense drones will help protect them for the time being. Thors are also here with their mighty javelin missiles, which everyone loves to see splash up against large biomasses of Zerg units. But for the moment, PulsE is a little bit stuck. He can't really push against too much of this. There's too many tanks and Hellbats down here. There's too many turrets protecting them. We can also see a couple of planetary fortresses are available as well. And for the time being, our Zerg player is just sort of stuck in this situation where he has, you know, a decent count of units. We've got a lot of Lings around the place and, you know, a few Corruptors, but we don't have any of those big key power units that will allow him to push. We don't have any Vipers, we don't have any Broodlords, Ultras, and even Infestors would be great to have at this point of the game as well, but none of that is out right now for our Zerg player. And in fact, again, he's sort of switching into Roaches. I kind of feel like this is a little bit of a mistake here. We don't want to see the gas being invested into units that would just crash up against an army of tanks and do absolutely nothing. But here we go. PulsE says it's time. I control the sky, and he comes through. We can see now the PulsE is, he forms a nice arc there with the Corruptors, and they are forced to fall back. But with this protection duty here of these point defense drones, it looks as if RuineD is in a little bit of a little bit too powerful of a position. This Banshee, 17 kills, finally falls down. Don't you worry, you'll get a purple heart for your efforts there, Mr. Banshee controller, Banshee pilot. Wow, I can't believe I forgot the word pilot there. But as we said, RuineD has slowly been able to turtle himself up right now. This is one thing which RuineD does quite a lot when he's playing his mech style, is that he is very good with this mech turtley style, controlling zones of influence right here. We can see that this point here is very much under Terran control. We have a lot of firepower ready to deflect any attacks that come in there. You may think, what if he comes in the back? But that's not really too much of an issue right here. We can also see down at the southern side of the map, a lot of roaches are going to try and bust through, but how many roaches is it going to take to get through all of these tanks? The SCVs will come across to try and soak up some of the damage. The roaches will get some good damage done though, and as you can see, they may be able to force their way through here. They're going to try and just barge their way through, may try and take out the orbital command. It's forced to lift. The 7 million corruptors come across from the side for PulsE, but they've decided to just sit off there for the moment. Couple of point defense drones coming out, Hunter Seeker missiles coming out. No, not for the moment, but RuineD is going to be able to hold this back for the moment, and I think, weirdly, his command center is going to survive. However, it looks as if a lot of his air component is going to fall down for the moment. Lots of corruptors, just so many corruptors up in the sky for PulsE. 26 falling down slowly, but all of those corruptors there are just tearing apart the battle cruisers, the Vikings, and all of those Ravens. But now, as we can see, the air army has been demolished, and RuineD is going to have to head back to the drawing board for the moment. We've got a couple of units now starting to pop out, but his resources have really started to deplete right now. We can see that his base up here on the top left position has been sort of mined away for the most part. A small Hellbat drop comes across to the bottom right hand side, but PulsE, let's consider his economy right now. He has nothing at the main, the natural, the third, the bottom right-hand bases also has a very minimal drone count right now. He's just popped down a few more to try and help out with that. But at the moment, we can see that our Zerg player PulsE is also sitting on a very marginal economy at this stage of the game right now. We are 35 minutes into this matchup between these two players, and, you know, RuineD has shown very, very high resilience right now. Of course, taking advantage of the efficiency and the power of mech. But I mean, he's been on the ropes a couple of times, but he's decided to stick with it for now. A single tank trying to hold down against these roaches. Roaches, of course, very powerful with their 3-2 upgrades. Will slowly make their way through. They should be able to find a few kills here on this fourth base of RuineD. But I mean, you know, are they going to be able to get enough damage done? The tank falls down to the falls through the backside there to try and get some shots off. But I think that RuineD should be able to hold this for now. You know, the tanks and Thor's slowly pushing up. Let's keep in mind that RuineD at the moment has 3 upgrades on all of these mech units, making them extremely strong, especially these Thors, especially these tanks. And, you know, with this is the problem I'm having in this game right now. PulsE keeps investing in these roaches, which I kind of feel like they're just never actually going to win you a game against mech. The Thors, the tanks, they're just far too strong. We may even see Widowmine start to come out for RuineD, perhaps just to save a little bit of money as well, just to try and keep his units up and running. We can see that the top side base is now possibly under threat, but RuineD is going to slowly start to clear out some of the creep. PulsE at the moment, still struggling for workers. 43 drones are out right now for the Zerg player. Looks as if we are going to get an engagement through the top side of the map. Corruptors coming across, trying to snipe down some of the units in the sky, but the point defense drones are helping out with that. Just trying to soak up some of the energy, but they do take a couple of javelins to the face, and I know that cannot be good at all. I've seen those things at the Olympics. They're pretty damn dangerous, but RuineD slowly moves his way forwards. Blue Flame Hellbats at the front, going to tank up a little bit for these Thors as they slowly leapfrog forwards with the tanks at the back, and RuineD is looking to take care of this base up at the 12 o'clock position right now. If he can take out this base and keep his own economy secure at the same point, I think he is going to put himself in a very strong position here. But as we can see, PulsE, the IG wraparound style, is going to come through the back. The Corruptors leading the charge. The Roaches slowly making their way forwards, but 3-3 tanks are a very dangerous thing to walk your way into. But the battle rages with Roaches coming in from both sides. Very nicely done. The Thors, for some reason, switching into the high impact payload mode, wasting quite a lot of their time right now. But it looks as if RuineD is still able to clean this up. This is exactly what we were mentioning earlier on in the game. The efficiency of mech is nothing to be underestimated. It is extremely strong. The Thors now make their way inside. Let's consider the damage these guys do. 39 damage when they drop Thor's hammer on these units here. They, of course, have that extra little bit of damage up against Corruptors and these kinds of things. And it looks as if PulsE is going to try and buy some more units to get his way out of this. Some Roaches, some Lings all coming out. But there is just so much Terran here. A slight miscontrol there from our Zerg player, but it looks as if he is going to be able to eventually clean this up. The Roaches moving forwards, charging up with their own 3-3 upgrades. and PulsE is finally able to clean all of this up. But RuineD, I mean, you know, he's taken care of a lot of the units. He's wasted a lot of his Zerg opponents' units through these pushes, and I mean, PulsE is still, he's sitting down at 113 supply. We really need to see him try and invest in some power units, but as we said, he's now struggling for gas. We've got gas coming in from the bottom right-hand side base. Of course, the 12 o'clock position should be mining out some gas right now, but unfortunately is not just yet, which means that PulsE is forced to invest in these very low-tier, very low-cost units, such as the Lings, such as the Roaches. And I mean, if there's anything that Roaches and Lings don't do too well against, it's Hellbats and tanks. This is the simple mixture that RuineD has to get to keep control of this game for now. And as he slowly starts to worm his way back after being in a very tough position, I think once or twice there, we have seen RuineD be in a very, very tough shape. We can see now that PulsE is starting to wear his minerals thin. We've got very low mineral count at the bottom right base. The the 12 o'clock base, sorry, I don't know why that's the 4 o'clock base, but the 12 o'clock base is very low. It looks as if RuineD is going to lose his normal third base here. The command center will go down. The Lings will try and clean up some of those SCVs as they attempt to retreat, but the planetary fortress is here, and that'll keep them alive for the most part. So RuineD is going to lose his base, but I mean, he's going to be thinking, that's okay. I've pretty much mined out here. This base doesn't have too much left. There's no gas, there's virtually no minerals, so he's going to be not too phased about losing that base, because I mean, he has slowly been able to get his units back together. We have a lot of bank here available for our Terran player. He has those 3-3 upgrades on the ground. We have 3-2 up in the air if we so desire to switch over into some more air tech. And for PulsE, this is going to be a very tough ask for him at this point. I mean, his drone count still struggling at 48 right now. He is going to try and take another base up towards the top left-hand side. This is good to see him try and recover some of that economy, but I mean, without the extra minerals and the gas coming in from some of these bases, I think even taking a gold base, it seems really weird to consider that our Zerg player is now the one in big trouble right now, considering that his economy was doing nicely, not beautifully, but doing nicely for the majority of the game. But I mean, now he's up at 153 supply, but it's 153 of very low tier units. All of these Roaches and Lings will just fall apart to the fire of the tanks, the Thors, and those Hellbats, quite literally when it comes to Hellbats. So as you can see, we were talking about space control before that RuineD is has been doing a very good job of before. This wall off here is just perfect for holding back sets of Roaches and Lings. Here we can see the double planetary fortress. Their Ibix cannons doing 40 damage per shot. They have a nice little decent range here. Hasn't upgraded it yet, but I mean, he hasn't really had the time to upgrade the turret and planetary fortress range. But now we can see that RuineD is looking to take another base. He says, alright, I need to take another base as well, because we're starting to run a little bit low on gas and minerals here. And he says, alright, it's time to head up towards the top left hand side. This is my base. Oh, there's the hatchery in the way. We're going to take care of this very quickly. And for our Zerg player, we'll see what he's able to do. PulsE, is he going to be able to throw down some blinding clouds that'll help save this base, or is he just going to have to let it go and then fall deeper and deeper into the hole that this mech army has dug for him? We can see the Vipers coming along. Will they be able to get some blinding clouds down? There's one, there's two. Nicely done by the Zerg player here. Is it going to be enough? The Hellbats at the front. Tanks moving around just to try and re-siege. Those three just moving into a better position there to re-siege up and get some shots down. And that Zerg army is now starting to fall to pieces. 110 supply. Roaches, Lings, that is all. Vipers up in the air. They're blinding cloud. Very powerful, but only with the correct mixture of units here. These Corruptors virtually useless at this point. And I have a funny feeling that PulsE is going to be in a GG kind of position very soon, because he's started to lose control of the map. The gas income has now just virtually died off right now. We've got this one base up towards the top side of the map that is bringing in the gas for him right now. But other than that, as we can see, more Roaches coming out. A few Broodlords are now going to morph in. And this is what I would have liked to have seen a little bit earlier on. A couple more Broodlords instead of some Roaches here. You can keep some of the Corruptors out. Maybe bring out like 4 or 5 Broodlords. Maybe slowly start to try and siege in on some of these buildings here. But I mean, you know, we're at a position where that's kind of the best you can do at this point. Because with planetary fortresses protecting the bottom side, we have, of course, a couple of tanks ready to defend the middle section. And now the large contingent of the Terran forces forces up here on 137 supply with their with tanks, Thors, and Hellbats all ready to defend this top position here. RuineD is really going to start to control all of this space here, and despite the best attempts of PulsE, this is a pretty clever tactic. Not too many people know this, but Blinding Cloud does actually stop planetary fortresses from shooting, and he's going to take advantage of that. Very nicely done. I'm rather impressed by what PulsE has done here. So he does move forwards. He's going to take care of the planetaries down here on the southern side of the map. The starport's going to go down. The few remaining SCVs that were long distance mining there have also gone down. And the Roaches have done a nice job. He's been able to clear out some of the buildings here, but you know, will he have what it takes to clear up some of this space here? A random abduction there from a Viper actually pulls out one of the tanks. Nicely done to snipe out one of the tanks. I mean, it's better than nothing. And slowly but surely, I'm sure that PulsE wants to slowly start to make his way back into this. We do have a little bit of a bank right now in the minerals for him. I would not be surprised to see him perhaps try and move in to take care of one of the gold bases once he clears out this last Hellbat that's patrolling around. Gets rid of that. Has really Tunneling Claws has been upgraded. I'm not sure how I feel about that one there, PulsE, but he has been able to get out the highlights on the hair of the Roaches there, so they're going to be able to burrow around. But I mean, there's Ravens, there's turrets, there's all these kinds of things that can be very dangerous to deal with. But as you can see, it looks like PulsE is going to try and make his way towards the top side of the map. RuineD is almost in position to deal with this very easily. The Roaches now cornered, as we can see. The tanks moving into position, forming a big arc across the side here. Hunter-Seeker missiles now coming through. SCVs be damned, says RuineD, and he's going to drop down the hammer on top of all of those Roaches. They try and burrow to escape, but I mean, there is no hiding when there are some Ravens. There are some free scans available as well for RuineD. Loses the command center, as we can see, but I mean, that is not too big of a deal right now, because as we can see, back at home for PulsE, he's down to 196. He's down to 96 supply, I should say, and has not been able to secure a gold base. We have a lot of minerals here, but he really needs to throw them down and get some more mining going. I think, is that no drones moving around. Alright, so we're just going to have possibly the last stand here from PulsE. He's got a few Corruptors up in the sky. We do have 4 Broodlords with some good transfuse. Those guys will be able to stick around for quite a while. But the Thors at the back, the Hellions on the ground protecting the tanks and the Thors should be enough to hold back this force. Hunter-Seeker missiles come out, as you can see, and they just rain down fire on the Broodlords. Just one Broodlord left over for PulsE. The Vipers at the back, the Corruptors, and everything is just melting here for our Zerg player. The last Broodlord has its own final stand, but he falls down, splitting apart. The tanks rolling forwards, Blinding Clouds doing what they can, but it is just not enough. And PulsE leaves the game in a blaze of glory. Unfortunately for him, not able to take down the very strong, very efficient mech army of RuineD. He was able to bide his time, slowly sort of put together the right composition. That's what I'm looking for with the mech army. 3-3, very powerful, but I kind of feel like this was in a position where PulsE could have had it a little bit earlier on. We were missing some key units like those Vipers, like even Infestors can really help out from time to time to soak up tank shots and things like that. But great game from both players from the C region. If you'd like to see more, please feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel up there or down there in the bottom left of this video. Subscribe there. Also say hello on facebook.com/duckville.casting. Cheers. Wall off there coming out from Blisk. He wants to make sure that he is all prepared for this. There is the +1 missile we mentioned before, and Infestation Pit, Hydralisk Den, all going down. So it looks as if Petraeus is getting prepared for a possible